On what began as an ordinary evening, in a quiet neighborhood where nothing unusual ever seemed to happen, 17-year-old Anna stepped outside for a short walk. She often did this to clear her mind, a few minutes of fresh air before going back inside to finish her schoolwork or message her best friend. There was nothing alarming, nothing unusual, nothing that hinted her life was about to change in a way no one could have predicted. But as the hours passed, her mother noticed she wasn't home yet. At first, she assumed Anna decided to take a longer walk, maybe stopped at a store or sat on a bench to think. But soon, those thoughts turned into worry. The house felt too quiet. The minutes felt too long. She called Anna's phone once, twice, then 10 times, but each call went to voicemail. Her friend Lily felt the same fear building inside her. She tried texting Anna, messaging her on every app, calling her until her hands shook. Nothing. No reply. No signal. Just silence. By midnight, the atmosphere inside the house shifted completely. Anna's mother walked from room to room, checking doors, checking windows, as if somehow Anna might suddenly appear. She stepped outside, looked down the street, listened for footsteps, but the street was empty, calm, too calm. Police were notified. Officers walked the neighborhood, knocked on doors, checked nearby streets and intersections. They gathered security footage from homes and stores, anything that might show where Anna had gone. And then they found it. A camera captured Anna walking into a narrow alley between two buildings. The light was dim, the ground wet from a recent rain. She walked in, but the footage on the other side showed no sign of her coming out. It was as if she simply disappeared inside the darkness. While her family lived through sleepless nights, Anna herself was waking up somewhere far from home, in a cold, unfamiliar room. Her vision was blurry, her breathing uneven, her arms aching. The air smelled of damp concrete and rusted metal. There was no window, just a faint light coming from a hallway beyond the door. She didn't know how long she had been there, or how she arrived. Her memories came only in sharp flashes. The sound of running footsteps, a dark silhouette behind her, the feeling of fear so strong it stole her breath. Determined to escape, she pushed herself up, her legs weak beneath her. She stepped into the hallway, a long industrial corridor lined with pipes, the walls echoing every sound she made. She moved carefully, afraid each noise would draw someone closer. The flicker of a failing light made her tense. Every shadow looked alive. Every step felt like it might be her last. She hid behind corners, stopped to listen, forced herself to stay quiet even when panic rose in her chest. The place felt endless. Doors that led nowhere, rooms filled with old equipment, machines that hummed in the darkness, and always the unsettling feeling of being watched. Hours passed like days. Her mind shifted between panic and focus, between wanting to cry and forcing herself to keep searching for a way out. Finally, she found a metal door, slightly open. Cold air seeped in through the cracks. Without thinking, without hesitating, she pushed it open and stumbled into the night. Barefoot, shivering, she ran down an empty industrial street lit only by flickering lamps. The concrete was freezing under her feet. Her legs felt like they would give out at any moment, but she kept going, turning corners, moving through alleys, desperate to put distance between herself and that awful place. When she saw the bright sign of a hospital in the distance, her heart nearly collapsed in relief. Inside, the staff rushed to help her. Nurses guided her through bright hallways, talking to her gently, asking her questions she struggled to answer. She was exhausted, weak, barely able to comprehend she was finally safe. Her mother arrived soon after, breathing heavily, eyes full of fear and relief at the same time. She couldn't believe she was seeing her daughter alive. She hugged Anna tightly, afraid to let go, afraid this moment might fade like a dream. The next day, Anna was brought home. The familiar walls of her living room felt warmer than she remembered. The soft light through the curtains, the smell of her mother's tea, the sight of Lily running inside with tears in her eyes, all of it felt unreal, like she was re-entering a life she had been torn away from. But even in safety, shadows of the past followed her. At times she froze, unable to breathe, as memories flashed before her eyes. Dark hallways, cold walls, a figure reaching toward her. Her body remembered fear even when her mind tried to rest. Her mother stayed close, watching her as she slept, bringing her warm tea, holding her when silent tears fell. Lily never left her side, helping her talk through fragments of memory, reminding her she wasn't alone anymore. Days turned into nights, and nights into mornings. Slowly, Anna found strength. She began writing down pieces of what she remembered, even when her hands trembled. Each written line felt like reclaiming a small part of herself. Her first steps outside again were hesitant. The sunlight felt too bright, the air too cold, the world too big. But she breathed it in, deep, shaky, determined. She walked past the trees on her street, felt the breeze move through her hair, watched the clouds drift across the sky with a sense of quiet wonder. Her mother watched from the window, her eyes filled with gratitude. Lily walked beside her, offering silent support when words felt unnecessary. In time, Anna returned to the world, not as the girl who left that night, but as someone stronger, someone who survived. And one evening, as the sun set and filled the living room with soft golden light, Anna sat between her mother and her best friend, leaning into them, finally feeling safe again. The shadows of the past would take time to fade. The wounds would heal slowly, but Anna was home. She was alive, and surrounded by love, she no longer carried her fear alone.
This is a story that still troubles everyone who hears it. The family, investigators, and people who come across it for the first time. A story where reality twists into strange details and logic stops working. In May of 2008, 19-year-old college student Brandon Swanson was returning home after a long day. Classes, a visit with friends, nothing unusual, just an ordinary evening. Late at night, he got into his car and started driving home. The road was familiar. The night was dark but calm, nothing out of the ordinary. Around 1 a.m., something went wrong. Brandon called his parents and said he had a problem. He believed he'd driven into a ditch and gotten stuck. The car wouldn't move. But he was sure he was close to home, somewhere near the town he lived in. His parents immediately got into their car and drove to him. They followed the directions he gave. They drove slowly, hazard lights flashing, scanning the roadside with their headlights. But he wasn't there. Something about the location he described didn't make sense. He mentioned buildings, lights, roads, but none of them existed in the place he claimed to be. He insisted he was right outside town, but his parents were in that exact spot and saw nothing. Brandon left his car and began walking across a field, leaving the vehicle behind. He held the phone to his ear and tried to navigate in the darkness. You could hear the wind moving through the tall grass, distant water, faint sounds around him, but he didn't recognize anything. He tried to describe what he saw, but his words didn't match reality. The grass grew taller. The ground became wet, uneven. It seemed like he was getting close to water, but he didn't realize it. His parents kept driving up and down the road, stopping, listening into the dark, hoping to see headlights or movement. But the night stayed empty. Between 1 and 2 a.m., Brandon began sounding worried. He walked faster, his breathing became heavier. Rocks and branches cracked under his steps. Rustling noises made him stop and turn around. At one point, he said a sentence that investigators can never forget. "I can see the lights of the town. I think I'm almost there." But he couldn't see the town. There were no lights. Nothing he described existed anywhere nearby. The phone connection crackled. Wind and static interrupted his voice. His parents listened as he continued walking through the dark field, and suddenly, they heard just one thing. "Oh." And then silence. No scream, no splash, no sound of falling, running, or struggle. Just that quiet, confused, "Oh." As if he saw something or understood something, and the call ended. The line went dead. Almost instantly, complete darkness. He never answered again. Search teams, dogs, helicopters, hundreds of people searched the area. Dogs tracked his scent toward the river, but not into it, as if he was there but didn't enter it. His car was found miles away from where he said he was, in a completely different direction, as if he himself didn't know where he was standing. No signs of a struggle, no personal belongings, no footprints leading anywhere clear. Despite massive search efforts, despite days and weeks of searching, no body, no clothing, no phone, nothing. Brandon Swanson vanished between 2 steps and one short sound. What happened that night remains completely unknown. Some say he might have slipped into the water. Others think he fell, got injured, and crawled somewhere unseen. There are theories about an accident, wild animals, or a hidden ditch. But none of the theories explain everything. They don't explain his strange descriptions of places that didn't exist. They don't explain how he ended up so far from where he thought he was. And they definitely don't explain that quiet sound and immediate silence. This is one of the most mysterious disappearances in modern America. A case full of questions and empty of answers. The story of a young man who simply disappeared. Where did Brandon Swanson go? And why has no one found a single trace of him?
She woke up with a strange heaviness in her chest, the kind that didn't feel like simple morning tiredness. It felt deeper, as if something inside her already knew this day wouldn't be like the others. Even the smell of fresh coffee, usually comforting, couldn't ease the storm quietly rising within her. She stood by the window for a moment, hoping the calm street below would settle her thoughts. But the quiet didn't help. The tension only grew stronger the moment he stepped into the room. The silence between them felt sharp, heavy, almost unbearable. Her voice trembled when she finally tried to speak, but he didn't soften. His anger came quickly, sudden and loud, forcing her to step back in fear. She moved toward the hallway, her heart racing, but he grabbed her wrist. She pulled away desperately, breathing fast, trying to escape the moment before it got worse. Inside the bedroom, she closed the door and tried to steady herself. Tears filled her eyes as she sat on the bed, feeling completely alone. She picked up her phone, thinking for a second about calling someone, but fear stopped her. Fear of him. Fear of what might happen next. From the kitchen, she heard him pacing, slamming doors, the anger in every movement. And in that moment, she knew she couldn't stay. She put on her hoodie, gathered her courage, and stepped quietly into the hallway, praying he wouldn't hear her leave. As she walked down the long corridor, a security camera captured her shaky steps. She hesitated at the elevator, but she knew she had no choice. Inside, she stared at her reflection, a frightened woman trying so hard to be brave. When the doors opened and she stepped outside, the cold morning air hit her face. For a second, she felt almost safe. She walked quickly, trying not to look back. But at the intersection, something made her stop and turn around. The wind grew stronger, and with it came an uneasy feeling, a sense that her fear was still following her. She tried to calm herself as she walked past a small store, but the feeling of being watched only grew stronger. Even inside the shop, surrounded by shelves and warm lights, her hands trembled slightly. She bought a bottle of water, hoping it would steady her, but the tension in her chest never eased. When she stepped back outside, the cold air brushed against her face, and something made her look over her shoulder. Far behind her, she noticed a figure walking in the same direction. She didn't know if it was coincidence or danger, but fear pushed her to walk faster. The street felt longer than usual, and every sound echoed too loudly. She crossed a quiet parking lot, trying to convince herself she wasn't being followed, but the uneasy feeling stayed, whispering that something was wrong. She slipped into a narrow side street, thinking it would help her disappear from sight, but instead it only made the fear sharper. The place was empty, silent, except for the faint sound of footsteps somewhere behind her. Her breath quickened. A sudden stumble sent her to the ground, scraping her hands as she fell. She tried to get up, but the panic froze her for a moment. In the corner of her vision, a dark figure approached fast. She didn't scream, she only gasped, realizing she had run out of time. And then everything went blurry. A flash, a distortion, as if a camera watching from nearby had been covered or destroyed. Hours later, in the police station, a detective stared at her missing person file with growing concern. Something about her disappearance didn't feel ordinary. He studied her photo, the videos, every small clue he could find. A colleague brought him new evidence, a flash drive containing footage from nearby cameras. The detective watched the grainy clips in silence, his worry deepening with every frame. He saw her running, falling, and then the picture cutting out. He marked locations on a map, trying to understand the path she took. Soon after, her mother arrived, exhausted and terrified. The detective showed her the footage gently, his voice soft but serious. She covered her mouth, fighting back tears, unable to believe what she was seeing. He placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder and promised her one thing. They would find her, no matter what it took. She tried to calm herself as she walked past the small store, but the feeling of being watched stayed with her. Even inside the shop, surrounded by quiet aisles, she couldn't shake the tension in her chest. She bought a bottle of water, hoping it would steady her hands, but the fear didn't leave. Outside, the cold air hit her face, and something made her glance back. Far behind her, a figure moved in the same direction. Maybe it was nothing, but instinct told her otherwise. She quickened her pace, her heartbeat growing louder with every step. The street felt emptier than usual. Every sound seemed amplified. She crossed the parking lot, trying to stay calm, but the anxiety only deepened. She slipped into a narrow side street, hoping to lose the feeling of being followed, but the silence there was even heavier. When she stumbled and fell, the shock froze her. As she tried to get up, she saw a dark figure approaching fast. There was no time to run, no time to scream. The moment blurred, like someone blocking a camera, cutting the world to black. Later, at the police station, the detective studied her disappearance with growing concern. Something about the footage didn't sit right. He reviewed every clip, every detail, marking locations, searching for answers. A colleague brought him new evidence, and his worry only deepened. He worked through the night, piecing together her final steps. When her mother arrived, frightened and exhausted, he showed her the recordings with gentle care. She watched in horror, shaking, unable to believe what happened to her daughter. The detective placed a hand on her shoulder, promising her one thing: they would not stop looking for her. Her mother sat alone in the quiet apartment, holding one of Carla's sweaters against her chest as if it were the only thing keeping her together. She tried writing a message to her daughter, but the words refused to come. Every corner of the room reminded her of Carla, and the emptiness felt heavier with each passing minute. Meanwhile, the detective returned to the station, exhausted, but unwilling to slow down. He laid out the evidence, reviewing every detail again, searching for the thread he might have missed. New maps, new locations, new possibilities, yet nothing gave him peace. He knew time was slipping away. He visited Carla's mother, listening to her stories, her fears, her memories. She handed him some of Carla's belongings, hoping they might help. He saw the pain in her eyes, the kind of pain that pushed him to keep going no matter how difficult the case became. As he retraced Carla's last steps, he found more clues, small but meaningful. An earring lying on the pavement, a place she had passed, a camera that caught a glimpse of someone following her. Piece by piece, the path became clearer, and with every discovery, his determination grew stronger. But the deeper he dug, the more unsettling the evidence became. A blurred face on a camera, a man who shouldn't have been there. Something about the footage made his stomach twist. It was getting darker, more dangerous than he expected. When a frantic officer rushed into his office with new information, the detective felt a cold realization settle in. Whatever they had found, it changed everything. Without hesitation, he grabbed his jacket and ran out of the station. Because the case had just taken a turn he could no longer ignore. The moment the detective received the new information, everything inside him shifted. He rushed out of the station, driving through the night with a feeling he couldn't ignore. Something was waiting for him, something important. When he arrived at the abandoned hangar, a chill ran through him. The place felt wrong, as if the air itself was holding its breath. He pushed the door open and stepped inside, letting his flashlight cut through the darkness. Every sound echoed, every shadow seemed alive. And then he saw her. Carla, weak and terrified, sitting against the cold wall. For a second, he froze, overwhelmed with relief and disbelief. She looked up at him, unsure if what she was seeing was real. He spoke softly, reaching out his hand, careful not to frighten her. She hesitated, then reached back. He helped her stand, supporting her trembling body as they walked out of the building. The night air felt almost gentle compared to the darkness inside. He guided her to the car, watching her expression shift from fear to fragile hope. At home, her mother sat alone, clutching a pillow as the phone rang. When she heard the words, "We found her," her legs gave out and tears of relief filled her eyes. She hurried to gather her things, her hands shaking as she imagined seeing her daughter again. In the hospital, Carla lay quietly, exhausted, but alive. When her mother entered the room, she ran to her, wrapping her arms around her with all the strength she had left. For the first time in days, Carla managed a weak smile. A few moments later, the detective stepped inside. Mother and daughter looked at him with gratitude, knowing that without him, this story might have ended very differently. And for the first time in a long while, he finally allowed himself to breathe.
Carla lay quietly in her hospital bed, finally safe, finally breathing freely. Her eyes closed as she tried to let the fear go, though the exhaustion still held tightly to her. Her mother stayed by her side, gently adjusting the blanket, afraid to look away even for a moment. Their hands met, fingers interlocking in a soft, trembling grip, a silent promise that nothing would ever separate them again. Outside the room, the detective watched through the glass window, his expression calm but deeply moved. He made the call to confirm the rescue, his voice steady, though relief weighed heavily in his chest. The nightmare was ending, at least for Carla. Far away, the abandoned hangar stood cold and empty, now sealed off with police tape. What happened inside those walls would leave a shadow for years to come. The detective returned there briefly, collecting every clue he could find. A blurred face from the surveillance footage, a glove, a phone left behind. The pieces formed a darker picture, one that told him the man responsible wasn't finished, not yet. Back at the station, he pinned the suspect's photo onto the piece board, red strings connecting every detail. This wasn't the end of the investigation, only the beginning of a new chase. Meanwhile, dawn slowly filled Carla's hospital room with soft light. She opened her eyes and stared at the rising sun, holding onto the necklace she always wore, grounding herself in something familiar. Her mother wrapped her arms around her, whispering how grateful she was, grateful that her daughter survived. The detective returned to check on them briefly. Carla looked at him with quiet gratitude, and he nodded back with a small, reassuring smile. There were no words needed. As he stepped out of the hospital, sunlight breaking over the horizon, he knew his next steps. Carla was safe, but the man who took her was still out there. The final file on the police board read, "Found alive." And right beside it, another photograph marked "Wanted." Because this story wasn't over. Not yet.